All right, this is the Shuttlecock podcast. My name is Aaron Rhodes, and we're sponsored by the Vinyl Underground at 7th Heaven. That's the record store at 76th and Troost in Kansas City. This week, I'm here with Alice Ryan from Dead Dads Club. How you doing?
I'm good.
Awesome. So we were talking before, like you've been to this house a couple of times before. You performed on the web show Casey DIY Yoda last year.
Accurate, yes.
Accurate. And just a few various other shows and parties and whatnot at this place. So I feel like you really know your way around Hyde Park a little more than most teenagers do. Is that
well,
accurate?
I mean, I grew up here, so I know the cool spots. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I want to just get straight into just growing up, because you did grow up in Hyde Park in Kansas City, and I don't know, you were kind of probably exposed to a lot of music as a child, I was guessing.
Yeah, well, my parents were in the punk scene in Kansas City in the 90s, and had me when they were really young, and so they didn't stop for me, and it kept on going on, and I was completely engulfed in it growing up in Kansas City and San Francisco and New Orleans. So there were really no boundaries when it came to music.
And so your family, did you guys move to San Francisco or just visit? Or
I was
in New
actually
Orleans?
born in New Orleans, because punks do tend to migrate, and it's happening now, and it happened 20 years ago too. They all moved to the West Coast, but instead of, like Olympia everyone's going to, it was San Francisco, and my parents were a part of that, and my mom got pregnant and went to New Orleans, and we stayed there for a couple years, back and forth between New Orleans and San Francisco, and ended up here coincidentally like a couple weeks before Katrina hit.
And wait, so you hadn't been in Kansas City at all until...
I moved to Kansas City when I was just started first grade.
Okay. And what made your family decide to come here?
My mom moved here because she had some demons in New Orleans, and was really unstable, and there's just a lot of drama going on. And I was actually staying with my dad. I have a really vivid memory of her like coming in the middle of the night and kind of just taking me and getting on a train here, and that's what happened. There was really no say in it. I didn't know it was happening, so it was pretty not ideal for me. And we didn't actually immediately move to Hyde Park. We moved to Johnson County to live with my grandma, which was quite like just change of everything, because I don't know if I had ever stepped foot in a suburb before, and then all of a sudden I was going to Corinth Elementary, and I didn't like it.
And I guess it was more of a family reason for you guys, but you mentioned that you came here like right before Hurricane Katrina hit.
Yeah, that was just a coincidence.
Yeah, that's pretty lucky, I guess. But but I think even as like a Midwesterner, like there's probably already a ton of like really crazy stories that have to do with like moving out of New Orleans after Katrina and stuff, and I think that's just going to continue to be like a story that you see come up with a lot of like artists and working class people.
Well, the thing is that with the music scene in the 90s, there was a lot of migration towards New Orleans and San Francisco. It was kind of like this like triangle in the U.S. And so there were a lot of mostly older musicians that like my parents were friends with that have come from New Orleans when that happened.
And so you were in Johnson County for a little bit.
Yeah, I went to Corinth Elementary for 2 years. I met some people that I still talk to who like went to Shawnee Mission East, and I got bullied mercilessly, I can't say that word, because I had a strange little Bayou accent and curly red hair and wore like Ramon shirts to school every day. and they did not like me.
I don't think I hear much accent now.
I don't have it anymore, but when I was a little kid, I did.
Yeah, I can see how that might be a big target for a lot of people.
They were dicks.
But
that school.
Yeah, so you said your parents were involved in like the punk scene in like all 3 cities that they had lived in at that point. What kind of bands and like what kind of styles of punk were they really were they playing in bands, or were they mostly just like going to shows and hanging out?
Well, my mom, she wasn't in bands before I was born, but after I was born, and a lot of messed up stuff happened, she learned how to play the drums, and she explained it was like a really good coping mechanism for her. And I honestly don't remember the bands that she was in New Orleans. Same with my dad, but they were when everyone, because we moved here, and then like 3-4 years down the line, my dad and my stepmom finally also moved here because my dad's also from here. And they just were in numerous like bar bands that weren't good. They weren't good. They weren't good punk bands. What is it? The Black and Gold Tavern now, when that was Kenny's Newsroom. I spent a lot of time there because they played constantly there, like every St. Patty Day. And they were in this one band, Billy Squire's Taint, which was like my dad's main project growing up. And it was actually really unfortunate because I would always try to like explain what it was that my parents did to like my friends, and I couldn't explain it. I still can't explain it. Like they just wrote like really grotesque songs about places like the Santa Maria, the apartment complex on like 39th in Baltimore. And yeah, I guess that was the kind of bands they played in, just like joke bar bands. Yeah,
I think that's kind of a prerequisite for any like 90s through 2000s bar punk band, is they just have like a really gross name and all their songs.
At that point they had kids. My dad was dying of hep C and a liver failure. So like they weren't kids anymore. And they knew it, but they were just still making fun of themselves at that point.
And so even further, like you said, you have a grandmother that's involved in. You're just telling me this like right before we started, but
I mean more or less.
Oh yeah, what is your grandmother?
Mima, she does like this like Slavic river dance thing. I don't know if she still does it. She did it when I was little.
And people who follow Shuttlecock and stuff, they might be familiar with your cousin also, Tommy Strasser.
Yeah.
Another local singer-songwriter.
Yep.
And Susie's going off over there. So you're a very like connected person in Kansas City for your age, I think. And so you also referred to Dawn from Bad Ideas as like an aunt to you, Dawn, like kind of a family friend. Yeah,
I grew up with her and Britt, and also I don't know if you know who Kurt Witt is, or Dirty Dogs 101. He was in this band in the 80s called Orange Donut.
Oh yeah, Orange Donut.
He was in that band, and I grew up with him kind of like my grandpa. He taught me. I got instruments growing up, but they just kind of expected me to already know how to play them. I don't know how, but I didn't actually like pay attention to my guitar until I was like 11, and Kurt was the one who like taught me a couple power chords, and then I went from there.
Nice.
But he's cool. He was basically like a grandpa growing up, and Dawn was like an aunt to me. And same with Britt and Caitlin Curry, their old bassist. So I grew up with all like the older punks, and it was a really like family type. It was almost like a family business to me. Like I didn't really perceive it as art, to be honest, growing up. It was just like this stupid shit that my parents did. And then as I was growing up and kids my age were paying attention to it, it kind of made me angry because I was like, you guys are going to die. Like, this shit is dangerous. Don't do it, because all the adults in my life were dying. So it made me kind of sad to see like all these teenagers all of a sudden going to shows. But that perspective changed. But as like an early teen, that's definitely how I felt about it.
Yeah, because you definitely have like a really intimate look at how some of those people lived. And
it was just the fact that my dad died of like a heroin overdose when I was 12, and all of his friends that I knew growing up that were family to me had already died of similar circumstances. So to me, it was hurtful that it was being still treated as like this harmless, fun activity that people were just like doing on the weekends in basements. But my perspective changed when I actually got emotionally invested in like punk music and going to shows, because it became something separate from my parents.
And would you say that hard drug use is less prevalent in punk nowadays, or were you just exposed to?
I'm not sure, and I'm trying to put my finger on it because have such a different perspective now than I did when I was little, and in different cities. I definitely do think that it's less of an issue now, but still a really big issue. And also, I don't want it to seem like I don't have sympathy for people who are addicts and need help, because that's not where I'm coming from at all. I'm just concerned, and I don't want anyone that I've known for a while to die, Yeah. And that's about it.
So you were saying when you were like 11 or 12, you were like learning your first chords on the guitar and hanging around with all these musicians. When did you first kind of become like an able musician yourself, would you say?
I still am not an able musician. Still not. I wouldn't consider myself an able musician at this point.
Well, when did you write your first like full song?
I was 13. It's called Mr. Unlovable, and I performed it with the KCA band when I went to KCA once, and that was it. And that was the end of that song.
Yeah, was KCA like a cool environment for you to be in?
It was cool. I have mixed feelings about that school, but for the most part, I do think that it helped me grow a lot, introduced me to a lot of social situations that brought me out of my shell from just being like the little punk baby, and now I was like my own person. And
what besides like the bands that you were like seeing and hanging around with when you were a kid, what were some of like the first like musicians that you really like got attached to?
Growing up, I had like, I'd say probably around 5 like all-time favorite bands that I always resorted to, and I was really like nervous and like not very confident about my music taste growing up, and I wouldn't tell my parents. And also like clear the browser history when I was like listening to music, because I just didn't want to get like roasted by your parents. Because I just didn't want them to. It wasn't even about that. I just didn't want them to know that like I was interested in the same things as they were. But Jonathan Richman was a big one, and he's playing tomorrow at the Bottleneck, and I'm super excited. Funny story about him, I loved him growing up all the time, but he was on my dad's computer that I listened to him on. He didn't have the name of the artist, and I'd be like, hey, Dad, like, who's this guy who sings the song about Cleopatra? And he was like, figure it out. And so I didn't know the name of Jonathan Richman until I was like 13. And I just listened to it on my dad's iPod and like his music and stuff. Another one was the Pixies, were a really big influence growing up. One of my first memories is like revolves around the song "Here Comes Your Man." I don't even like the Ramones, but the Ramones were just because I was named after them. My middle name, Ramona, is actually almost like really named Riff Randall, which is part of the reason I started going by it. I was really into Francoise Hardy growing up, the like French pop singer from the 60s. And just, I don't know, random ones. My mom got me really into like some of the LA punk groups around like the early 2000s, like Mika Maiko, because she was really into them. Was really into the Go-Go's. Just like stupid shit that I knew my dad would make fun of me for. So, yeah.
And so I think, unless you had something previous to it that I didn't know about, your first EP was called Farm Baby, and that came out like early last year, late 2015.
That wasn't the first thing that I made.
That wasn't. Okay,
No.
tell me
My
what
first
predates that.
dabble in the Bandcamp scene was when I was 13. I just went by my name, Alice Ryan, and I released a few covers. And I don't know what else I was going to do when I was 13. I also only knew power chords, and I was trying to make like acoustic music, so it just wasn't good. I didn't know how to tune my guitar. I made an EP. I deleted that. I deleted the whole Bandcamp, and no one can find it. But yeah, I did that. But Farm Baby was the first. Well, actually, Farm Baby wasn't even the first. I started like recording music because on like GarageBand on like my phone, and I still use GarageBand, but now not on my phone, now on an iPad, so it's a little bit bigger.
Real fancy.
Yeah.
real studio hours.
Yeah, but I junior year was a rough year for me, and I recorded a few songs throughout that year, and then like one night something bad happened, and I like got on my computer and like uploaded all of those songs under the album or EP name or whatever. I don't know the difference between EP and album. I'm not gonna lie. You don't have to explain it to me, but
EP is just short, well, shorter than a full album.
All right, cool.
Okay,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyways, the name of it was just like, I think it was just Heh. It was like HEH, and then it was just stupid, and I deleted it. And that was probably like the early summer of 2016. And then I polished some of those songs and put out Farm Baby.
And yeah, so what were some of your first shows like?
Awful.
Awful.
I still don't really like playing shows. I get a really bad, I call them brat attacks, where I just like become the biggest bitch. It doesn't matter that like if people are enjoying the music or not. I just have this like sudden feeling of regret and guilt and just not wanting to be there. So I'm just
some kind of like stage fright, or would you say?
Yeah, no, it's
different?
definitely stage fright. It's just like, instead of like being vulnerable and like freezing on the stage, I just like growl at everyone. And that's what most of my early shows were like. I played the first show at Second Base when it first opened up, and it was really funny because I played like 3 songs, and then I went and cried outside on the back porch, and it was during the ice storm, and I like slid and fell down the stairs and just like was on my back just crying, and I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's a little discouraging, but
yeah,
you got back at it. And
I think
how's the next show after that?
The next one was the Shuttlecock one.
Oh yeah, that was.
And I still had a little bit of a brat attack, but like I tried to mask it.
Oh yeah, that show went pretty smooth. That was good.
I think so. That was one of the more smoother shows that I've played. I was mainly like bratty towards my friends at that show because they kept leaving, and I was like, stop leaving. Like, do not leave before
like,
the last
y'all,
band.
we're here to rock.
Well,
come on.
The main thing that I don't appreciate about Kansas Cityans going to shows is that they always leave after their friend's band. Don't do that. Like, stay for the whole show. You're not really supporting your friends if you're like being disrespectful towards the show and just leaving after their set. Like, that's mean. Don't do that. But yeah, so I'm getting a handle on my brat attacks, and I think a part of the reason that I wasn't that discouraged by them is because I was having a lot of fun just experimenting and recording more and more music, just constantly.
Yeah, it does seem like you have a pretty like constant stream of. So you just kind of get excited to play new songs, and you're like, okay, I guess like I'll do another show since I haven't played these songs yet. Or,
yeah. And even with like playing shows, there's some songs that I just won't play live because I'm also like really insecure about like lyrics and stuff, and I don't really want people to know what my songs are about. So two things you'll never expect from me is I'm never going to post my lyrics in like the description or anything like that. And I'm never going to play everyone's beat live. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, then they are pretty personal lyrics. So, maybe by the time you're on like a major indie label and they can coax the lyrics out of you for a booklet, maybe you'll get them then.
Never.
But yeah. So yeah, you grew up in Kansas City for the most part.
Yeah.
And like you have, like, other than your time living in Johnson County, like I've realized that you have like a real passion about like kids who grew up in the city and like artists and students who live in the city.
Since I got like the little exposure that I did, I kind of have a vendetta against suburban kids. I'm not going to lie, because they were so shitty towards me when I was at Corinth. And when I came to Kansas City, I went to Faxon Montessori, which is on 26th and Paseo. And I was still bullied, but I just noticed that like there was such a difference between the kids there and the kids here. And the difference was these kids were talented. And these kids weren't given like the time of day, and it just kept on like growing up. And I went to KCA for a couple years, and then I went to Ruskin, and then I went to Paseo, and there were just all these kids that were making such good art, like such great art. And then I was seeing like these kids that I went to like KCA with that were having like their punk shows and were like opening up shop and like these punk houses east of Paseo and east of Troost, and not including the community that they were infiltrating, like not even making an effort. And it made me really mad. It still makes me really mad, and it's getting a little better. That bridge is being crossed a little bit, but there's still just so much to be done. And there's this like misconception that like inner city kids don't want to be involved in punk, and I don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true. And I think that needs to be addressed a lot more in the community.
Would you say it is kind of like just another arm of like kind of just social gentrification?
Oh, completely.
Is there some other issue that you would include in that?
I mean, it's definitely social gentrification, but I also think that it's a part of the reason. Part of it is like the isolation of kids who are growing up in the inner city, and another part of it is just kids in general. People just hate kids, and it doesn't make any sense, especially in a place like the punk community, because the whole reason that this has been around for so long is because kids keep coming and coming and coming and coming. You can't just decide that you don't want kids around anymore, or else your scene's going to die. And it already is starting to die. And the reason why is because people are being so rude to new people who are trying to come to shows.
So you've experienced a lot of like ageism on your end?
Yeah, I mean, when I was like early high school, I didn't want to go to shows because it felt like something I'd already done growing up. I didn't see the fun in it. And it just seemed like the people who were kind of rude. But then I got to like know those people more, and I realized that was just me being like a bratty teenager. And I realized a lot of these feelings and emotions are just still like me being very young and very judgmental of some situations.
And like I guess another part of it, well, maybe not so directly, but like the music you play. Like you hang out at a lot of punk shows, but the music you play personally isn't. Yeah. So do you feel like that kind of ties into some of like the feelings you have about it?
To be honest, me playing music has very little to do with my feelings about the scene and everything. And also, music, it's kind of funny. I wasn't interested in making bedroom pop. I still really am not interested in making bedroom pop, but it's kind of the only thing I can do all by myself. So I just keep doing it.
What kind of musical ambitions would you say you have?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Just haven't realized yet?
I just haven't realized yet. I'm still very young. But
But you do want to like collaborate with more people or do like full bands?
I don't know if that's the word. I don't know if I can collaborate. I don't know. I don't really have a very hard time perceiving myself as like a stable musician because like I only knew power chords up until like a year and a half ago. Like, am I really like a musician or am I just like bedroom pop artist? So I am very insecure about the thought of collaborating with other people. I'd like to like one day if I feel like confident enough, I'd love to like, I don't know, be in band or something. That'd be fun, but that is not today.
No, I feel like you're always kind of growing as an artist. So I don't know. I think you'll be there sooner than later. And so you just put out a new album called Floo Medz.
Yeah.
And that's some of the songs you'd already released before, but I guess you re-recorded some of them.
I re-recorded them. The main issue is that I just don't have any equipment. Like, as I said, I record on an iPad with my headphones as a mic. And I didn't know anything about recording, and I still don't really. Everything I know is based in, like, the GarageBand app, which isn't very professional. So, I mean, I feel confident in my skills making the music that I'm making, but I don't really think that applies to, like, anything else I want to do.
But are you more excited about this new album than some of your past work?
Yeah, yeah. I think I think that I've gotten better with just like, I guess, composing, just like matching things up and like furthering a lot of song ideas. Like none of the songs on Floo Medz are new. I have like on my iCloud account, because that's where I write all my songs in my notes. I have like 350 songs. Only 100 of them are on Bandcamp. So that I don't even have like the iCloud room to write new material. I kind of like am disciplining myself to like go back and actually like figure out what you want to do with this song. And a lot of like the stuff that I've released, I don't think any of the stuff I've released I'm going to leave at that. I want to revisit pretty much everything on like my Bandcamp and my SoundCloud.
That sounds kind of like a pretty daunting process. Are you kind of...
I have nothing else to do.
Yeah, you don't. So you are like just pretty like hobbyist about it, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of am a serial hobbyist. Is that a word?
Yeah, that sounds... Yeah. Could be. Yeah.
I've always known that I wanted to make music. But I didn't want my parents to know that because, as I said, just really embarrassed about everything.
Has your mom heard any of your music?
Oh, yeah, she loves it. It's terrifying.
No, it's not a bad
No,
thing.
they're not. It's not that they're not supportive. They're my mom's super supportive of everything artistic. Like, I had really bad parents, but one thing is that they did just, like, anything I wanted to explore artistically, I could. And so throughout my childhood, I kind of just distracted them from the fact that I wanted to make music because I was so embarrassed by that thought that I was like, you know what? Actually, I really want to check out like contortion. So I trained to be a contortionist for like 4 years just so that I could like write songs in secret and no one would catch on to it.
Do you still have any of those skills?
Yeah, I can do the splits on demand. I can sit on my head. I can do like front handsprings, back handsprings.
Maybe that'd be a good way to open a show.
I don't think so. But yes, and I did that. I did fire poi when I was little.
What's that involve?
It's like it's before like it got engulfed in like the new hippie movement. It's like the circus.
Spinning. Oh, like you have like the ball, like
yeah, and I would swinging. Like spin them and do contortion stuff when I was like 9, 10. So I was just like constantly coming up with like new things to distract my parents.
Have you ever made money doing that stuff?
No.
That could be kind of fun.
I don't want to do it anymore.
You could fund your music by doing fire poi.
Well, I mean, I actually did get pretty serious about it until freshman year. I was when I left Kansas City Academy. The reason I did was because I was hospitalized for about a year, and that's where I wrote most of my lyrics because I was like so drugged up that I was just like writing all this bullshit about bullshit. But and I stopped doing aerial silks because I couldn't train anymore. But I was pretty serious about it. I trained like for several hours every day. Pretty active. Yeah.
And I know I've noticed recently on your social media, maybe you've been doing it for a while, but you're crocheting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that while I was hospitalized. Yeah. So I just I love picking up things, and I get really emotionally invested because I don't do relationships or school or anything. So instead I'm just I'm just gonna commit myself to writing and recording these 350 songs over the next year. It's my goal.
And so yeah, but you've done tops and you've done pillows.
Yeah, I started crocheting pillows for all my favorite musicians when they come in town.
Yeah, so you've got some to Girlpool already, and
I was gonna make one for Frankie Cosmos when she came, because I talked to you about my early influences, but I started getting into music and discovering this whole new world of music that was completely separate of my parents in middle school, and Frankie Cosmos and Alex G were the first 2 artists that I discovered and was oh, this is cool. This is what I want to do. So when she came, I wanted to make her a pillow, but I didn't have time to.
But yeah, I think you've covered both of those artists before.
Multiple times.
Frank Cosmos, Alex G. And are there any other covers that you're...
Oh, the first song that I ever recorded was a cover of Alex G. It was I Wait For You, which was the song that I asked him to play, and he doesn't remember how to play it. I know how to play it, but he doesn't know how to play it.
You should have just chopped up there.
I should have. Yeah. He also deleted it from his Bandcamp, and I asked him about it, and he said he didn't even know it was deleted. So I did the world a favor, because he's putting that track back on easy. Go check it out. It's my favorite song.
And yeah, so you'd mentioned to me recently that you were hoping to move to Chicago at some point?
Yes.
Yep.
While I do love Kansas City, it takes up about 75% of my personality. Is just my passions and discerns and betrayals when it comes to Kansas City. So I'd like to challenge myself to live separately from it for a little bit.
But you intend on coming back sometime?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No. I want to see what it's going to be like living as an actual human being with no prerequisite of people knowing me from my parents, or when I did contortion, or when I did this, or when I did that. I want to be a new person, I guess.
And I guess that's something that is kind of the same thing that a lot of people growing up face.
Yeah, it's totally a normal thing. You should not live in the place your parents grew up. And I think that a lot of the kids who still grew up in Kansas City but in the suburbs aren't experiencing exactly the same thing, because when I walked on the street, all I'm thinking about is that my dad was literally doing the exact same thing. He was going to a show on the exact same street 20 years ago. So what's really changed?
Yeah, so it's kind of just a whole existential thing for you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a crisis, and that's kept me from going to a lot of shows because I don't want to be like my parents.
And yeah, what? So you said you're kind of just sitting in all these songs that you've had for a while, and you just want to go back and re-record and improve them.
I really want to just get better at music. I'm saving up for a laptop so I don't have to record on it's not even my iPad, and it's not even an iPad, it's an iPad mini, and it's my friend Eliza's. So I'm trying to save up so I can get a computer and an actual mic.
When was the last song that you actually wrote though?
I think it's Gray Innocence on Floo Medz.
And how long ago was that though?
6 months.
Yeah, so are you afraid that while you're going back and redoing all these other songs that you won't be writing new songs? I feel
well, I still write new songs constantly, but I've almost had to stop myself because I'm trying to learn discipline. So if I am fiddling around with my little guitar, and I'm like, ooh, a song. I'm like, no, you can like take a little video and write it down in your notes, but you are not recording this right now. Don't even think about it. But I break the rules a couple times.
So, but you think that's a pretty important like virtue that you just want to nail down first, I guess?
Actually, I think I didn't break the rules. I did just like put a song on my SoundCloud like 2 days ago that I wrote like that night. But anyways.
But yeah, what are you excited about in Kansas City right now, just as a whole? Are there any bands that are out right now, or any musicians that you're excited
I've
about?
honestly been isolating myself a little too much and don't even know what's going on. But I really like. I like all of it. I like everything.
I like the rock music, the rap music, all the music.
I love the rap music that's coming out of Kansas City so much. And I love that these are kids that I was going to Paseo with, like Solomon. I love that they're getting like the exposure that they deserve. It's so cool. I'm so happy for them. So yeah, that's what I'm most excited about in Kansas City is the rap scene coming up, because it's about damn time. I think it's great. I love it a lot.
Yeah, so let's get Alice on some more hip hop shows. So I'll be.
No.
No? Okay.
No, I don't like playing shows, but I'll definitely go to all of the shows. All of them.
Awesome.
You see me there.
Is there anything else that you wanted to get to while you're here?
Is there anything you wanted to get to while I was here?
Not that I can think of. So yeah, people can visit shuttlecockmusic.com, and there's the store on there if you want to support the site. There's t-shirts and buttons that you can order. You can follow at Shuttlecock Mag on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and listen to the A.D.D podcast with Jason Barr. Where can people find you online, Alice?
You can go to my SoundCloud. I think it is Yiffyandle. Might be Skiff Scandal or Spliff Splandle, but I think it's Yiffyandle right now. Or my Bandcamp, which is Dead Dad's Club.
It's theddc.bandcamp.com.
And I found out there's actually another DDC. So I'm going to have to fight them because I'm not giving up that name. It's perfect.
Might be a lawsuit coming that
No. No. I'm going to win.
Yeah, you might need to sue them. I don't know.
No, I'm just going to intimidate them. Or write like a diss track, but it's going to be bedroom pop.
That'll be good.
They're like a cover band that plays at like casinos. I don't understand. Nice. And also, I guess the Dead Dad's Club or whatever is a reference from Grey's Anatomy, which I didn't even know. I've never seen that show. But
you're the real Dead Dad's Club.
I'm the real Dead Dad's Club.
But yeah, thanks for being on the podcast.
Oh, no problem.